If only you had been there, Lord, this wouldn't have happened. Please be seated. How many of us have said that at some point in our lives? God, if you had been there, or typically at that point we don't say it to God because we don't really believe that God is there in that moment. We feel deserted by God. If God had been there, this wouldn't have happened. My child would not have died. I would not have gotten a disease. An entire people would not have been enslaved. I would not have lost my home. If God had been there, tragedy would not have struck. If God had been there, death would not have happened. And when death happens, friends, we lose our faith. We don't like to talk about this. We feel a lot of shame around this. We think that the worst thing possible in the life of being a Christian is to lose our faith, is to express doubt in God. Because we feel deserted, and somehow we have interpreted the gospel of the life, death, and resurrection of Jesus as one in which we are not supposed to feel grief and loss and anger. We are not supposed to experience death and the ravages to our life and our families that come because those who have gone before us have died, and those who should have lived beyond us have died. Somehow we have turned Christianity into this sort of pop-happy religion. Friends, we are not a pop-happy religion. Christianity doesn't survive on Hallmark cards. There's no pithy phrase, there's no meme that can possibly convey the breadth of what it is to be a follower of the one who lives, loves, dies, and rises again. Mary, faithful Mary, Mary, the one who seems to get it. Martha, too busy working in the kitchen, making sure everybody's fed. Mary sits at the feet of Jesus and learns. She gets Jesus. She is a disciple of Jesus. She is a follower of Jesus. And when Jesus finally shows up, when he finally shows his face in her town, oh, friends, she is mad. She told Jesus that her brother was dying. She told Jesus that Lazarus was sick. Jesus knew. He got the message. And Jesus waited. He delayed 2 days. And Mary is betrayed by Jesus' delay. Mary is betrayed by the delay of her friend, who she knows if he had shown up on time when he promised, if God had actually been there when we really needed God, Lazarus wouldn't have died. Our child wouldn't have died. They wouldn't have ended up using drugs or cutting off communication. Our spouse would still be sitting next to us in the pew. We would have indeed been able to find justice for immigrants let out of a tied, flat facility with nothing but a t-shirt in winter. Thank you for telling that story today, Pat. If God had shown up on time, it wouldn't have happened. And Jesus showing up late weeps for the loss of his friend. Friends, if you knew that when your loved one had died, when you had experienced the divorce you didn't want, the loss in your life, the change in your partner, the failure of a cause to which you have committed so much of your time and energy, if you knew that God was weeping with you, how might that have changed that moment for you? What we want is a God who makes it not happen. But friends, that's not the God we get. I believe to the core of my being that we are created from the beginning of time to be participants with God in creation. As God's creation, we are called to participate with God. But we are not made to participate with God. God does not force that participation. God invites. And for a reason I cannot fathom, God has created a world in which death is a part of that world. Everything dies. Trees die. Plants die. Cultures die. People die. And yet it is in that death that life is fed. Just before this moment, when Mary says to Jesus, "You have betrayed me," if you had been there, Jesus had told her, "I am the resurrection and the life." It is the last of the I am statements in the Gospel of John, because at this point in the story, Jesus is headed not to life, but to death. Indeed, one of the reasons Jesus has been avoiding his friends is because he knows that to go back to his friends is to put himself in the hands of those who want to kill him. Just before this, Jesus left because he was going to be stoned. And when he decides to indeed go back to be with Mary and Martha and his now dead friend Lazarus, Thomas says, "Well, okay, but we're going to go die with you." Because everybody knows that if Jesus heads back towards Jerusalem, death is in front of him. And at this point, I am shamelessly cribbing from the sermon given yesterday by our now presiding Bishop Sean. Jesus comes back, stands at the tomb of his friend, weeping, grieving that death happens. And he says, "Lazarus, come out." I am the resurrection and the life speaks the voice of life. And you know what, friends? The dead hear. Lazarus, dead in the tomb, hears the voice of life. And that voice of life calls him out. Friends, this is one of the strangest beliefs that we have as Christians. While we believe that death continues, we also believe that in God, death is not the end. We believe in a resurrection. We make a radical and strange claim of a resurrection of the body. Friends, I believe in the resurrection of the body. I know that in the Episcopal Church it's quite popular to not believe in that. I believe in the resurrection of the body. I don't know if that body is going to be this one. I kind of hope it's not, because it's starting to fall apart. Maybe in a world where we know that energy goes nowhere, but energy always remains, the resurrection is a re-energizing of who we are in a way that we do not yet understand. Lazarus comes out, friends. Lazarus comes out. And do you know what Jesus says? Unbind him. Jesus, friends, death is full. You are Jesus, so that's fair. But friends, death is a binding. The fear of death binds us in our life. How much of our life is about the fear of failing and of dying, not only of our bodies dying, but of failing in the world that we have around us, of failing in our relationships, failing in our jobs, failing in this community. Those failures are a death to us. They are a death that we grieve. And because we live in a culture that does not like to talk about death, we cover it over. We pretend, we stick our heads in the sand, we lie, we deceive. We do anything we can to avoid that our life is full of death and failure. And yet Jesus speaks the voice of life. And friends, the dead hear. The dead hear, and Jesus says to the dead and the living, unbind him. Friends, what binds you in your life? What is wrapped around you so much that you cannot move your arms? What is wrapped around you so tightly that you cannot walk, that you are afraid to go places? Friends, what binds you? What binds us? What are the things that we are most afraid of? Friends, as we come to a reality that Christ's church is changing, what are you most afraid to lose? What in your heart of hearts do you say, I tried so hard to do this thing. I tried so hard to make something work. It should have worked. It didn't work because X, Y, or Z didn't happen. So-and-so didn't do the thing they should have done. But really, God, where were you? What binds us? And how do we unbind, friends? God doesn't do it for us. God invites us to participate in a life where we grow, I believe we grow forever, into further depth of relationship and understanding of what it is to be created in the image of God and to become like God. What does that mean for us? Friends, we will celebrate the memories of those who have gone before us. We will celebrate those who have loved us well and perhaps those who have not always loved us well. We know what it is to love people who are not perfect because everyone who has gone before us is not perfect. Every family member that we have loved has not always loved us well. We have not loved them well. And yet we see in them the work of God. We see in them the person who told us the story that gave us comfort at night, the invitation to come to their church, the person who sat next to us at the pew when we knew nothing about all of this Episcopal stuff, the person who walked with us when a loved one died or when we were in recovery, the person who knows the things we don't talk about very much about ourselves and loved us anyways. Those are the people that we remember today. And it is worth also acknowledging that sometimes the memory of those who have gone before us binds us. It binds us to their vision. One of the difficult things about being a tradition that is rich in history and practice is that sometimes we have handed down things in the name of preserving the memories of those who have gone before us, their vision for what it is to be a community. And we have forgotten that God calls us to have a vision and to unbind ourselves today and now. Friends, each and every one of us is made in the beautiful image of God, and each and every one of us is made differently and uniquely in that image of God. No one of us is the same. No one of us is called to be a saint in the same way. Frankly, no one of us is called to be the saint in the same way at the same time through all of our lives. As we grow and change and become more and more like God in the world, as we live out that baptismal covenant of being people who seek after God and neighbor and creation, we change. And each and every one of us is called to take the time to reflect on who they are in God. Friends, who are you and what binds you and what are you being called to now? Every person that God creates is beautiful and unique, a many-faceted image of God. And your call and your place in the world and in your family and in the community around you and in this congregation is different from the person next to you. I take so much joy in the diversity of the saints of the world because it reminds me that I don't have to be everything and do all the things. I lean into those things that God has given me a passion about, that God has given me joy, that excite me when we begin to talk about them. Those things are not particularly easy, and they have required many deaths on my part. Deaths I have not appreciated. Thank you very much, God. But they have also made me who I am, and they have brought me here. Friends, today we celebrate that God works in God's people and that the voice of life is calling you to unbind from whatever holds you to death and not life. Our God is a God of liberation, a God who seeks that all are able to flourish in and with the creation that we are. How are you bound? And how is God saying, unbind? Unbind yourself, unbind your neighbor. Amen.